Landlords are increasingly using no-fault evictions to remove tenants following the eviction moratorium. And meanwhile, mortgage interest rates have soared to more than 7% across the country. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a couple of interesting articles for you today. And the first one is about the fact that landlords are using a lot more of these so-called no-fault evictions to remove tenants after the eviction moratorium. And the reason is pretty simple, okay? A lot of governments, they put in place the rules that say, hey, if you accept these rental assistance payments from us, you cannot evict the tenant for non-payment of rent for like a year or maybe even longer afterwards, right? So what the landlords realized was, hey, the rules, they don't say anything about if we want to remove the tenant as soon as their lease expires. So, when a landlord removes a tenant, after the ends of the 12-month or however long the lease term is, they call that a no-fault eviction. I just call it, not renewing a lease, but they have a special term for it in some places. But before I can get into that story, I have to address the elephant in the room, okay? And that's mortgage interest rates. And this is going to affect landlords and homeowners alike, okay? They are going up, and it's absolutely insane. I mean, I don't know how far they're going to go. I mean, I haven't seen interest rates at 7% for, owner occupants. Man, I mean, we're talking about a long time, okay? I mean, it's been a very, very long time, 10 plus years. So, I mean, people aren't used to paying this much money to borrow money. And it's going to seriously affect the housing market. If we don't see declines in prices, then there are other factors. There's still the demand issue. There's still the fact that, hey, they're not building enough housing. So, I mean, we're probably going to see declining demand, but will that mean that housing prices themselves will come down? I don't know. So before we get into the articles, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. What do you think the effects of these rising interest rates will be on the housing market? How do you think this is going to affect us as landlords, okay? I know that this could really make it more difficult for me to make the numbers work on rental properties that I'm looking at. Okay, I know I already refinanced 3 of my single family houses this year, fortunately before all these interest rates started to rise. So I got locked in 4% interest rate on all 3 of them. Thank goodness. I knew this was coming and, I wanted to jump on it. So yeah, I jumped in there just in time. I did cash out refinances on them. So I have money ready to buy investment properties, but I haven't seen anything where the numbers work, and especially not with higher interest rates. So yeah, this is going to be a crazy year, and I don't know how long these high interest rate, if this is a long-term thing, it might be. Okay, we have to deal with this inflation somehow, and this is one of those ways that they deal with it. So the first article I have today, it's coming from money.com, and it says, today's mortgage rates soar to nearly 7%, April 18th, 2022. Yeah, and I'm recording this on April 19th, so this is a very, very recent article, but let's get into it and see what it says. After briefly falling below 6% last Friday, the average rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage jumped up to 6.875%, increasing by more than 1 percentage point. The rate is nearly 2 percentage points higher than the average rate just 1 month ago. Rates for most other loan categories increased as well, although not quite so dramatically. The average rate on a 15-year fixed-rate loan, however, moved lower. And then, it lists a few of the, different rates right now for, what type of mortgage there is. And I'll throw that up on the screen just so you can see what it is. But, this changes all the time. So, by the time you see this video, these rates could have gone up or down. Money's daily mortgage rates reflect what a borrower with a 20% down payment and a 700 credit score, roughly the national average score, might pay if he or she applied for a home loan right now. Each day's rates are based on the average rate 8,000 lenders offered to applicants the previous business day. So yeah, this is crazy. Okay, this could have very, very negative effects on landlords. And I know a lot of people who are holding off on purchasing right now, or even looking for rental properties right now, because they're expecting a crash. Okay, I don't expect a crash. I expect a extreme slowdown. I don't expect prices to decrease. I just expect them to stop increasing. Okay, so the increases that we saw over the last couple of years, they're just not going to be happening like that anymore. We're just probably going to see prices stagnate for a while. That's what my theory is. I'm not an expert at this stuff. I predicted all this inflation was coming, and I bet correctly, and I got lucky and I made out like a bandit. So, I feel like, hey, the economy is saying that these things are going to happen, and well, those things are exactly what happened, So when inflation and everything occurs, and then they raise interest rates, right? One of the things that could happen is that we see a slowdown in the price increases, and that's what they want. They don't want housing costs to include inflation to keep going up. But we could also see increased unemployment in other sectors of the economy. So rent increases could also stop going up. We are just recovering after losing a ton of money, during all those eviction moratoriums and nonsense. So we'll see what happens, but I don't want to dwell too much on this topic, but I wanted to get into this second story that I had today. And this story, it's coming from ctpublic.org, and that's basically the PBS from up in the state of Connecticut. And it says, rent paid, still evicted, the COVID era of no-fault evictions. Now, this story actually, it goes over, the hard luck story of some tenant up in Connecticut, right? I am not too interested in hearing about these hard luck tenant stories. I've said that before, right? I'm more interested in hearing why the landlords are doing these no-fault evictions and, what it means for landlords, okay? Because, this is a landlord channel. I'm not too concerned. Like, a lot of the times they put these images of tenants in your head that make them look like innocent victims. But, hey, the landlords, they have to do what they have to do. These are businesses. They cannot provide free housing or discounted housing to these people because they're facing the same pressures from the economy as everyone else. Okay? So I'm going to skip beyond this tenant story when I start reading this article and go down to the important topics to us. Okay? So, the article says, I already read the article title, so let's just skip down. And it says, what's driving the uptick in no-fault eviction filings? If you ask legal aid attorneys representing low-income renters what's driving the uptick in no-fault evictions, they'll tell you that a hot housing market and a loophole in a pandemic-era executive order restricting evictions are to blame. A now expired executive order signed by Governor Ned Lamont required landlords to apply to the state's rental assistance program, Unite CT, before filing to evict someone for missed rent. The goal was to pause evictions for non-payment of rent as the state doled out the $400 million in federal pandemic rent aid it received. That program had several barriers. Both housing and landlord advocates have criticized the program for its complicated application process, long payout time frame, and in some cases, not covering all the arrearage. The rental assistance program, they required landlords to apply for it before they could remove these bad tenants, okay? These bad tenants who hadn't paid them and they needed to get rid of, they had to apply for rental assistance for them, and they would be unable to remove these tenants from the property until those applications were processed. But because of government bureaucracy and other BS, okay, it takes months on end before you even know if the tenant qualifies or if you're going to get anything. And if you do get anything, it's not going to cover all of your losses, and they're going to put restrictions on whether you can remove the tenant afterwards. So a lot of landlords are like, hey, I don't want to participate in these programs. I don't want to. I just want to get this tenant out of my property as soon as possible. So what do landlords do? They see this loophole, okay? And the loophole is what they call the no-fault eviction. Yeah, and I just call it not renewing the lease, okay? They say, oh, if we just don't renew the lease, then we can just get the tenant straight on out of our property and, go about our business. No eviction filing necessary, no rental assistance program application necessary, no waiting months on end through all the bureaucracy. We just get the tenant out of our property. And that's exactly what landlords are doing. And now they're sitting here and they're wondering, well, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Because they don't understand, basic common sense. Okay, so I'm not going to read the rest of this article. I've gone over this topic, time and time and time again. And until they begin to actually talk to landlords about why we do the things that we do, they're never going to figure out, hey, they actually aren't bad people. They are actually doing these things because they don't want to go under, they don't want to go into bankruptcy. They don't want their businesses going out of business. They need to survive as well.